Hello, people. Today I have with me a man known for his work as the Riddler in the Arkham games, Red Almighty Tallest and Invader Zim, Ant-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Wild Tiger and Tiger and Bunny, Mr. Wally Wingert.
Hello.
And
What's
how
up,
are you?
Michael?
I'm doing very good. I'm doing very, very good. And how are you doing today?
Doing good. Had a nice, relaxing day. Got a few errands run. Got a little relaxation in. Doing some stuff on the computer. Got my computer guy calling it at 8 to fix an issue, and technology just makes my head spin. So I got to work with him at 8 o'clock, and he doesn't even have to be here anymore. They do a thing called Team View, where he can just view in on my computer and see what's wrong. It doesn't
Hmm.
even have to be here. It's really amazing.
Oh, so it's like a webcam thing. They just like come in and look.
No, it's not even a webcam thing. He can just access the innards of my computer via this thing called Team Viewer and from his remote location, and he can fix whatever from where he's at. It's pretty great.
Hmm. All right. So let's get started. How did you get interested in voice acting?
I loved cartoons ever since I was a little kid. I used to I think my first word was Popeye because I used to watch Popeye cartoons all the time. Um, and I grew up loving the Archies and Groovy Ghoulies and Beetle Bailey and all these great cartoons that were on television, and I would listen to the voices, and I'd watch Underdog, and I'd see these people's names at the end. So these people are doing these voices. Okay, I get it. And then I got into acting as I got older in my teens, and started as a radio DJ when I was about 16, and started doing a lot of character voices in my radio shows. And when I moved up to Los Angeles in 1987 to be an actor, I quickly lost interest in on-camera acting because I thought it was kind of silly, where you're sitting around all day doing nothing, and then for 30 seconds you have to be good, and then you go back to your trailer and sit around for another 3-4 hours. I thought, well, this is kind of dumb. So, but I fell in love with voice acting and cartoons, and I said, well, I've always loved cartoons. This would be a lot of fun. So started doing that full-time right around 1998. And haven't looked back at all. So it's been great.
I remember reading somewhere that you were a big fan of the Muppets as a kid.
Oh, sure, yeah. I started watching Sesame Street almost the first year it came on. I think, in third grade. And I was trying to tell everybody how cool the show was with these funny puppets, and they're really funny. And I would do the voices, and they would say, "Well, that's a baby show." I was like, "No, that's not a baby show. It's really funny. You got to watch it." So one other friend, my friend Chris, and I would watch it and watch all the Muppet sketches and watch the animation, because that show was a mix of a lot of different mediums. It was animation, it was clay animation sometimes, and sometimes it'd be puppets, and sometimes it would be 2D animation, and sometimes it would be live action and people in suits. It was a really brilliant show, and I was taken by all the animation and all the action and all the color and all the things that they would talk about and the voices and how funny the puppets were and the Muppets. And I've been a fan ever since. And some of the first voices I developed as a kid, actual character voices, were Muppet voices. So, and strangely enough, the first job I ever got on Family Guy back in, I think, 1998 was doing the voice of Bert when they did a thing called Sesame Street Blue. So those old working on those old voices when you're in fifth grade paid off eventually.
Wait, was that the sketch on Family Guy where it's Ernie and Bert like in a crime drama or something?
Yeah, it was Sesame Street Blue instead of NYPD Blue.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and they're in bed, and Bert gets out, and he says, "Some jerk got his head blown off at a place called Hooper's." Stop yelling, Bert! Bert, you're yelling. I hate it when you eat cookies in the damn bed. Yeah, so funny.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was me as Bert, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. A voice I used to do since fifth grade. I'm finally doing it on national television. This is great. And then, of course, Seth had me come in for other stuff, and Mr. Rogers, and a bunch of other voices. So I've done really 30, 40, 50 some odd episodes of Family Guy.
Well,
So it's been pretty cool.
there was something interesting because I saw you. I don't know if you remember this or not, but apparently you played Jay Leno at one point in American Dad, like a little
I
bit
did.
part.
Yeah. Yeah, this is years before I ever started working for Jay Leno, so I thought that was kind of funny. A little foreshadowing there.
I should have actually probably brought that up. Is that you are you were the voiceover for the Tonight Show, correct?
Yes, yeah, for 4.5 years.
And like you just did like the opening,
And,
like the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Like that's all you did, really?
Well, yeah, that's all I did for the opening of the show. But they would also have me do character voices for some of the comedy bits that they'd run. They call them drops, like drop-ins. So I was doing character voices for tons of drops that they would do during the monologue and during the second act comedy bit that they would do. So I was doing fake, sportscasters, newscasters, promo announcers, voice of Scooby-Doo, a crazy elf. I just never knew what those writers were going to throw at me, but it was an exercise in versatility because you just never knew what they were going to have from day to day. You'd walk in and say, okay, today we're going to have you say this, and now you're going to do a fake infomercial announcer. And you're going to do... So it was really great getting utilized like that in that full capacity to do all that different stuff, in addition to just being, the voice at the top of the show, which was really made the job a little extra fun.
Now, was that an audition thing? Did they have people come in and audition for the voiceover?
Yes, actually, everybody auditioned at home, and I remember it was an audition for the Jay Leno show when he was doing his thing in 2009 after the Conan took over the Tonight Show. Jay was doing his primetime show called the Jay Leno Show. And they said that they no longer wanted the in-studio announcer, the guy was actually sitting there. So they just wanted to have some voiceover guy come in and just do it. And then I got the job because I had auditioned 3 times. One at home, I just sent in a bunch of takes. And then they had me come in, and then they didn't hire me for the test shows. And then by the time it was time for them to go live in September of 2009, then they had me come in to do the real shows. So I had auditioned 3 times total. Once here at home, once in person, and they re-auditioned me just before we went live on that Monday. So it was pretty great. And then once they figured out that I was on Family Guy and all these cartoons and could do all these different voices, they said, "Oh, we're going to have you do a lot of stuff." I'm like, "Sure, fine." So.
And I was curious, what are some of your favorite roles, if you could name them off the top of your head?
Well, the Riddler is right up there. Since I've been a Batman fan since I was about 5 years old, watching the old TV show with Adam West. So I love doing the Riddler, love being part of the Batman legacy, the franchise. Also love doing the Tonight Show quite a bit. That was I think I was only the 7th full-time announcer for the Tonight Show in history. There was one guy there just before Ed McMahon took over that was kind of doing it. His name was Ed O'Harley. He was just doing it kind of temporarily, so he didn't really count. He wasn't the full-time guy. I think Hugh Downs was on his way to do ABC News or something over there, so he quit the Tonight Show with Jack Parr, and Jack Parr was about ready to end his run on the Tonight Show, and Johnny Carson was going to take over. So I think Hugh Downs left early, and for a couple of months there, Ed O'Harley was the announcer, but he wasn't really a full-time announcer. He was kind of a transitory, kind of guy. So as far as actual full-time announcers, I was only the 7th in history, which is pretty cool. I also love John Arbuckle on the Garfield show. I love John Arbuckle because he's such a dork. And I loved Hank Pym, Ant-Man. Loved that character. So those are the favorites.
I think my favorite was always my favorite role of yours was always the tallest in Invader Zim.
Oh yeah. Welcome, brave Arkham soldiers. Well, how about a sandwich, Sam? So you're saying people are tall, but they're stupid on Earth? Wow. Yeah, he was fun too. Well, the best thing about that job was working with Kevin McDonald. Far away.
You two were actually working together in the room?
I'm sorry?
You two were actually working together, in the room together?
Yes, for Invader Zim, we actually all worked together. I mean, they used to do ensemble reads for almost every cartoon. Sometimes it would just be Kevin and me because the tallest would just have a scene with Zim, so they wouldn't really need the rest of the cast. Other times it would be, all of us. But those were good times. Those were fun days. Right,
because I think you two were one of my favorite things about the whole show.
Oh, thanks, yeah. Because they were so Jonan had a whole philosophy, and had the show continued, you would have realized later that, of course, on Zim's planet, I think it's called Urk, that you are chosen to be the leader based on how tall you are.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're the tallest guy on the planet, then you're just the leader. Well, purple and red, discernible only by the colors of their eyes, were exactly the same height, so they had to be co-leaders. So, but Jonan said that eventually he was going to reveal that they weren't any taller than any of the other Urkins. They just had these cool exoskeleton suits that they put together, and they had fooled everybody into thinking they were tall.
Oh,
I thought that was pretty brilliant.
That kills me so much because I loved that show so much, and then I heard about all these ideas that came out for the later seasons, and I was just like, oh, we never got to see that.
Yeah, no, I know. It was sad. It was sad, but a show just too far ahead of its time. Like Family Guy. You know, when Family Guy first came out, it was too far ahead of its time, and it ended up getting canceled, and luckily it got uncanceled and brought back, unlike Zim. But, yeah, we always thought that maybe somebody would bring Zim back at some point. Some network would pick it up. It never happened.
Right, because I think the one that killed me the most is that I found out there was going to be a movie for the finale, and I was like, oh! That completely hurt me.
Well, I always wanted to do... I always wanted to do the singing episode where it's just all singing.
Wait, there was going to be a singing
really
episode?
Funny. It was Richard... What's that?
There was going to be a singing episode?
No, they had talked about it, I think. I don't think very seriously. But everybody was, you know, Angel and Buffy, you know, the Vampire Slayer, they were all doing, like, all singing episodes. And they thought it'd be kind of fun to do that. And it's funny because I sing. Richard Horvitz is a great singer. And I think virtually the rest of the cast were singers as well. So it would have been fairly easy to do.
I think there's always been this...
never got that.
But yeah, what?
Oh, I'm losing you. Say again?
Oh, what? You were saying something and then you cut out.
Oh, I cut out? Oh. I was just saying that everybody in the cast were singers, so it would have been really easy to pull off, but it just never got around to it.
Right. I think there was this one line that your tallest said. It's actually a line that I've used before because it's probably one of my favorite lines in cartoons. It's like, I think it was the episode where, like, Zim, like, at the beginning it just starts with Zim calling the tallest for a good, like, minute and a half. Like, just yelling at them. And there's this... Yeah,
my tallest, yeah.
Yeah, I actually have the line on standby. Tell me if you can hear this. I actually have it on standby. Let me play this.
Oh, what is it?
Hey. Curious to see when you'd shut up on your own. But it's been 3 hours now, Zim. 3 hours!
That always kills me every time I hear it. I don't know, it's just...
It's been 3 hours. 3 hours!
It's just so dry, and I just love that build up to the scream.
I love that they just have been sitting there listening to him for 3 hours, trying to get their attention, like a child.
Hey, someone's making donuts.
Funny. So what else do you want to talk about?
I love that we've only been in, like, question 2. All right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. Do you watch any of the stuff that you're in?
I do. I like, well, just because my hours are so screwy, I'm mostly a night person. I like to stay up all night and go to bed at the crack of dawn and sleep for a few hours and then get up and then do a bunch of stuff and then take a nap for a few hours. I can't sleep 8 hours all in one fell swoop. I got to sleep in shifts because I'm just that kind of a guy.
Right.
But I'm going to bed on Boomerang. They run the Garfield show. So just before I go to sleep, it's kind of tradition to just check into the Garfield show and look at some of the episodes they're running, and I go, oh, I remember this one, or else I go, I really don't remember doing that. I know that's my voice. I know that I said that at one point, but I really have no recollection of doing that episode at all. And when watching the episode and going, oh, that turned out pretty nice. Yeah, occasionally mostly I watch stuff after it's produced on YouTube or online, just because it's so easily accessible. I can just kind of on demand just punch it up and go, oh, I think I want to see this video game. A lot of, the only way I've seen a lot of the Riddler stuff is on YouTube. People videotape their gameplay. they will actually shoot their gameplay and put it up on YouTube.
Right.
So that's how I get to see most of the Riddler stuff. So because I'm not a gamer at all, so I would otherwise never get to see that stuff.
Like,
But yeah, I check into it from time to time just to see, oh, I could have done that better, or maybe I should have done this, or that worked out pretty well, or whatever.
Like, at first, was it like weird hearing your voice? Like, was it really weird at first?
No, because I had been hearing my voice ever since I was in, when I was a kid, recording on my little reel-to-reel tape recorder that my dad got me. Then finally we went to a cassette recorder, so I would hear my voice played back all the time on the tape recorder. And then when I got into radio, of course, I would record radio commercials, and I'd hear them on the radio. And I remember what a thrill it was to be driving around and hear one of your commercials on the radio going, hey, that's me, I'm on the radio right now. And then, later you're driving around, you hear yourself on national commercials that will pop up on different stations, and seeing things on TV that pop up. And it's pretty great seeing your voice come out of a moving, talking cartoon. I will probably never get over that thrill.
Right. It's like I was always curious because I think that's probably one of my favorite feelings. Because at first, I think everybody has always said it's weird to hear your voice come out of a cartoon. I think a lot of voice actors I've heard have said that before.
Well, it's not weird. It's wonderful. Because when you love cartoons as much as I have for as long as I have, you dream about seeing your voice come out of a cartoon, and I would much rather see my voice come out of a cartoon than ever see my face on camera on television. That nobody wants to see. But hearing my voice come out of a cartoon, that's terrific. I love that.
All right, and I'm curious because you've done both a mix of normal cartoons. You've done the stuff in California, Western animation, but you've also done a lot of anime work. And I was kind of curious, do you have a preference over the two? Well,
yes, I like original animation much better, is because you're freer. You're in a group of people in a room, and you just have microphones and a script, and you're just recording, and they animate to you later. And if you come up with a good idea or an improv or an ad-lib, you can throw it in if the writers like it. You can record it. They might use it later. They might not. But it's more free. When you're doing something that's already been animated, you're basically a slave to what you see up on the picture there, on the screen. You can't do another couple words after that. You can't laugh if the character's not already laughing. I equate it to jogging with enormous weights on your ankles. Because you're really so limited. Some of the best actors I know are anime actors, purely because they are so limited by what they can do, because they have the picture there, and you've got to make sure your lines fit into the amount of lip flaps that you are given in the cartoon. So you have to stay in voice, you have to stay in character, and the acting has to be good under all those limitations. So if people are effective at dubbing anime, and they are really good, and they win awards and stuff, well, that shows that they're really, truly a good actor, probably a way better actor than a lot of the people who are showing their face on TV, purely because the actors in anime are so limited and so burdened by a litany of many different restrictions. So if you can beat all those restrictions and come through all those limitations and still do a good character, then wow, God bless you.
Right, and again, we've brought up that you were the Riddler, you're Ant-Man, you're MODOK, and were you again, you said you were a Batman comic fan. Were you a comic fan in general, or was it specific comics?
Yes. When I was in junior high, I had a really good friend named John, and he and I were comic buddies, and we'd do, sleepovers on the weekends, and we'd stay up late and watch the movies like Outer Limits, and we'd watch Twilight Zone, and we'd watch all these crazy sci-fi movies on television when cable was just starting to be an entity in television. I think when we first got cable, there was an extra maybe 3 or 4 stations. WGN in Denver, there was WTBS in Atlanta, and there was WSTP or KSTP out of WTCN, that's what it was, out of Minneapolis. So we were seeing Minneapolis, we were seeing Denver, we were seeing Atlanta, and they would have, film packages that they'd run on the weekends of all these old movies. So we'd stay up late and we'd read comic books and we'd sit around and we'd order a pizza and we'd say, oh, those were the good old days. And he and I would just stack comics up around us and just read comics as we were watching these TV shows, So John, actually, he passed away, unfortunately, back in about 2000. When did Batman Begins come out? Do you remember what year that came out?
2000,
first Nolan film?
2005, I think.
Yeah, that's when he passed away, because he was actually at the movie Batman Begins, and he told his wife, I don't feel very well. And then he was dead in like a few hours. He had the John Ritter thing where he bled out. And he was, very in-shape guy and very young, and it was very sad. But he was my old comic book buddy. And he kept his comic. I mean, his wife and his kids still have his comic book collection to this very day. I got rid of mine, many, many years ago. But yeah, I was into all kinds. I read Spider-Man. I read Fantastic Four. I read Batman. I read, I had tons of them that I would read on a regular basis. I wasn't a big Hulk fan. I did like Iron Man. But I read all kinds of different stuff. I love the team-ups of Batman and Superman, like The World's Finest, that kind of stuff. And I used to love reading that as a kid. So it's kind of fun now that they're making shows out of comics, and they'll be explaining a storyline to you at the session, and you'll go, oh yeah, I know. That's from the time when, Reed Richards did this and this happened, and Dr. Doom did this. Like, oh yeah, okay. So it's funny because I'm performing now with a lot of like-minded comic book nerds, which, the nerds are in control of the world now. It's really great. So it's great to be able to do all this stuff, dealing with the characters that I knew and loved growing up.
Right. And I was curious because, again, you're Ant-Man, but you're also MODOK, and you were, before Tom Kane came in to play the role, you were Ultron very briefly. And I was curious.
Well, when Ultron was nice, it was me, because he would have had Pym's voice. Because right. Pym would have put his own voice in Ultron. And then when Ultron became aware of, doing battle as opposed to just serving man, when they had to put that in to him that, okay, you now have to do battle, then he became Tom Kane, which was a much sterner kind of not as gentle voice.
Did they want you to do it originally, or did they have Tom in mind before?
No, they wanted a complete voice change to show that the character of Ultron had become this whole different thing now. Once he became aware of how to do violence, they wanted a whole different take on him. And I was like, I totally get that, because you want the thing, the thing, the Ultron voice to, before he was like, how may I serve you? And then boom, you make him aware of how to do battle, and then he becomes this different kind of thing, It's kind of like a Big Hero 6, where you see his eyes turn like a different color when he turns into, or even Gurr, from Invader Zim, when he turns into his robot mode because he's kind of deficient. Yeah. Normally he's got the nice green eyes, but then he'll click in and he'll get the red eyes, and he'll be all business. So they wanted a definite change of voice, a completely different person to show that no, Ultron has really changed now. So that was a conscious choice.
Right, and I was curious because, again, you were multiple characters on that show. You were multiple, side characters on Invader Zim. Now, is that spur of the moment? Is it just hey, do you want to play this, bit part? Hey, Richard, you want this? Hey, Melissa, you want this? Is it just, spur of the moment, or do you just, hey, can I do this?
No, that's the casting director, who was Donna Grillo on that show, that decided that, I was doing a lot of Austin Powers at the time, and I was, doing Austin live. I'd actually dress up as Austin and go to parties, baby. Hello, baby, very groovy. So she knew that I was a fan of Mike Myers. So when Jonan said, well, there's this character I'm doing called Mortos, I want him to sound kind of like Mike Myers' character Lothar of the Hill People. So she said, oh, I know a guy who knows all of Mike Myers' characters, and he can probably do it. Send us Wally, who's already the tallest. Let's just have him come in and do it. So, I'd come in and do that, and they'd say, well, there's this girl at a fair named Darlene Boo Boo or whatever. Can you do her? She has a high, scratchy voice. Here's a character to. So they would just assign these. Richard, I think, would only do Zim because his voice was so recognizable that having him do another character aside from Zim, since it was the lead character, would be too noticeable. But when you're kind of a semi-regular character like myself or Kevin, and especially somebody who can do a bunch of different ranges in voices and is versatile, then they call that utility, to be a utility player. I did utility on Family Guy for many, many years, where I'd go on and do 3 or 4 characters a show, and they'd all sound completely different. And I love doing utility. It's a lot. I think it's a lot more fun than doing a main character, because you do Captain America, you're always Captain America all the time, and you say the same stuff and you do the same stuff. But you come in and you do all these different characters, and you're this guard and you're this guy, and then you do this hero and you do this villain. It's a lot of fun to be able to change it up.
All right. I gotta say thank you so much for letting me interview you.
Oh, that's it?
Well, also I gotta ask one more. Is there any advice you can give to people that would be interested in doing voiceover?
Yes, learn to act. Voice acting at its core is acting. It's no different than being on a stage or being on camera and acting. It's just that the only difference is there's no camera in the room. But you're still doing your character. You're still acting. A lot of voice actors, when they're in their character, will become physically the character. And you'll watch them, and they'll do the characterizations of the character as if they were on camera. It's just that there's no camera in the room. They will animate that in later, but there's no difference. You're still doing a character, and you have to be in that character, and you have to completely sell that character. It's not just doing a funny voice. It's actually doing a character voice where you are actually in character doing this person for all the world to hear but not see.
All right.
So yes, acting is very, 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 very important.